friends, I'm Rhiannon from Drawn by Rhiannon, and today I'm going to be telling you how you can make the most out of your beeswax wraps. So just in case you didn't know, reusable beeswax wraps are basically like an eco-friendly replacement for cling film. You just wrap them around whatever you would use cling film for, whether you're wrapping it around food or snacks or over top of a bowl or something like that. But instead of chucking it out after you've used it like you would with cling film, you just wash it and then it's ready to use again. One of the questions that I get asked the most often about the beeswax wraps is how long they last. So I always say they're at their best between 6 months and a year. Obviously it does depend how often you use them and how well you look after them, but I'd say on average that is how long they're sort of at their best for. Obviously the whole purpose of them is that you can reuse them again and again, but after a little while they will start to deteriorate, and what I mean by that is that they will start to sort of dry out and they're not going to cling as well. So I thought I would do a quick video to show you how you can fix that problem if that happens to your beeswax wraps. So just to show you as an example, these are the wraps that I have on my stall as like the demo models. So I use one to go over a bowl, and then this one here is like sort of wrapped around a block to sort of show you what it will look like to be wrapped around food. So I've been using these for about a year and a half now on my stall, and as you can see they're just starting to dry out a little bit, especially around the edges. You can just see there it's getting kind of dry and a bit cracked and everything. So these are still working all right, but I'm just going to refresh them today just so they're looking all nice for the winter markets. So if your beeswax wraps are starting to look a little bit like this, they've lost their cling a little bit, it's really easy to revive them. So what you're going to need is an oven on a really low temperature, ideally nothing more than like 100 degrees, and you're also going to need a baking tray. So the beeswax wraps are quite big, so I would recommend using the biggest baking tray that you've got, biggest one that will fit in your oven basically, and what you're going to want to do is line this with some baking paper. Now this is really important because we don't want any beeswax getting onto your baking tray, because then like next time you go to bake some cookies or something, they might taste a little bit of beeswax, might have a bit of a waxy texture to them. So you want to make sure that you line your baking tray before you do this. I'm not going to be lining my baking trays because these are the trays that I used to make the beeswax wraps on. I never use these for baking, so it doesn't matter if we get a little bit of wax on them. Then you just want to lay your beeswax wrap on top of your lined baking tray, and you want to kind of flatten it out as much as possible. If you've just had it wrapping up something, then just try and sort of press it down nice and flat to get all the creases out. So once you've got it as flat as possible, you just want to pop it into your oven, like I say, really low oven, and it just needs a minute or two just to remelt the wax, and that is going to refresh it and give you a little bit longer with it. After a few minutes in a low oven, the wax will have remelted, so take your tray out and very carefully pick the wrap up off the tray. Obviously it's going to be very hot, so please be careful with your fingers. And then just before you put it down on the surface, you want to just sort of wave it out in the air a little bit, just to dry it out and make sure that it's set before you put it on the surface. I would recommend putting a tablecloth or something down over the top of your surface, just so that you make sure you don't get any beeswax wrap stuck onto your worktop. I would also recommend wearing an apron while you do this, because it can get very messy and splashes of wax are quite tricky to get out of your clothes. And that's all there is to it. It's super easy. As you can see, it looks like pretty much brand new. We've got none of the sort of like dried flakiness on here, and that is going to last you for several more months now. So that's just a really easy way to help make your beeswax wraps last longer. If you don't have an oven, or if you just don't want to get beeswax anywhere near your oven, that's completely fine. You can also do it with the ironing method. So you want to make sure you've got both sides of the beeswax wrap covered with some baking paper. I would put a tea towel underneath and a tea towel on top, and then just iron it on a really low heat so that you still get the heat going through, and it's going to melt the wax the same that it would in the oven. This is a little bit more tricky. I just find it easier to manage the temperature in the oven, but it's another option for you if you don't want to use the oven method. If you'd like to know more about the reusable beeswax wraps, then just drop a comment below, or you can check out the video that I did on the product spotlight on them. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click here to subscribe and click here to watch another video. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!